I've been working a little bit off screen to improve the Fractal editor, and what we have now is this kind of like hue, saturation, value color picker. So you can change the hue here, and you can choose which saturation and value you want with this dot, and the final color is shown here. So now what I want to add is, if we click on one of these squares, it should add this color as a new type of state. So let's see if we can get that working. So we'll go in the editor, and we have this function called draw states, which is responsible for drawing those squares. So basically, let's actually make a rectangle for this square. So let's call this draw a rectangle rect. It's just called rect. So there we still have them, and now we can check. Let's get the mouse position, and we can check if we collide with this rectangle. So here we say, do we have something called state? I don't think so. So we kind of need to keep track of which colors are set. So let's say we have here colors, and how many of these, let me go back here and go back into draw states. How many are we drawing? So we're drawing 10. Let's put that here, and inside the init function we will say call it a widget. Here we'll say that colors is malloc size of color times number of states, and then in the dinit we should free the colors. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say colors I is the current color. The current color is stored in a variable called color. So we're just going to do this. And here we should actually say colors I, unless there is no color. So we also need to keep track of like, let's say, enabled states. And free those down here. And then we say here, okay, so if this state is enabled, then we can use the color, and otherwise we will draw a white rectangle. And then we have to say, okay, if we click it, what's gonna happen? Well, if it's not enabled, then we'll set it to be enabled, and we will also assign the color. And otherwise we set to not enable. So let's try to run that. And that doesn't work because this stuff has to be declared on the top. Okay. So now if I click here, it should make them colored. And let's have something that's blue. Okay, so if I click it again, it becomes disabled, and Great. So that was easy. Now the next step is to use those colors over here. So what we'll need is, we have these toggles, which will basically say if a square is active. But then we also need to store what the color is. We'll also need something like int number, get number of states, which will it's called active states maybe. So do this, because we'll need that when we, so the behavior I want is that when I click this, this is going to be the first state. So let's say we have red, we have blue, and we have this one. So the first time I click, it should be red, then it should be blue, then it should be this pink thing, and then finally it should disable it again. Maybe we should also have right click to disable, but we'll see about that. Okay. So we also need something like, well, let's try to think about it from the point of view of the state. So we have a pattern, we have a number of states, and in here we have this state to color, which will have to be part of this guy, I think. So let's say we need to include raylib, and then we have a color thingy here. Right. Then we should remove this, and down here where we're initializing the pattern, we should say state to color is two colors, and the first one is this, and the second one is this. And we free the pattern, and then we also actually need to free the colors. Okay, let's try to run that. That didn't work because these have to be cast to colors. I think. Yeah, so now we have this guy, state to color. It has to be replaced with state pattern state to color. And now everything is still working. Great. But then here let's just like keep a local version of that. Let's call it colors, and it has to have the same size as the toggle. So we'll say colors is this guy, now squares X, and it cannot be called colors, it can be, let's call it toggled colors. good. So what do we need now? Okay, let's go into this pattern drawer widget, and it draws a clickable square, and the clickable square is in charge of setting the color, and it sets the color to what? That's very weird. I don't know why that is there. Like, I think we can just remove this. It's not doing anything. All right. Okay, so here we have that the square is clicked. So what is the logic? The logic is if it's not toggled, then we need to say toggled colors of the index is equal to get nth color of colors. Actually, let's just call it get nth color, and it's going to be the first one. That's the problem. It's not enough. It has to be. We have to keep track of which one. So it's better to have it as some integers, and then in the end we'll fill out. Okay, so it will get, but then here it's a lot easier. We'll just say this, and if it is toggled, then we actually just have to increment it by 1. But that's also not quite right, because we have to make sure we don't overflow. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll actually say, okay, if we left click, then it is always active. It's always toggled. If it's right clicked, then we'll say it's not toggled. Okay, but now we have to see here. Okay, so what is the color of this square? Well, let's do like this. So if it is toggled, we find the color index by looking at toggled colors of this index, and then the color has to be get nth color of color index, and otherwise I'll simplify it a bit and we'll say otherwise it's white. So these on and off color arguments can go away. And let's do it like that. So let's have color get nth color, and it takes an index. Okay, so non-active states is get number of active states, and if that is 0, then we can say it's black and white. Okay, so otherwise we have to say something like this actually, and we'll default to saying unreachable. So we'll have the active index will loop over all the possible ones if it's enabled, and the current index is equal to the one we're seeking, then we return that. Otherwise we increment it. And this will skip over everything that's not enabled, so we can even like explicitly show this a bit clearer. If it's not active, we skip it, and otherwise it kind of counts. So let's see how well that works. And if we go back, it kind of does work still. And let's try with colors actually. We'll have this a little bit more blue here, and this guy. So now we have 3. So now what should happen is it becomes red, and I can cycle through it, and I can right click. And if I disable them all, then it's just, so that didn't work because toggle colors index so we had an index that was, but this one should, that's very interesting. So let's do like that, remove those, and then click this, and it says floating point exception. So that's weird. So let's say if get number of active states is 0, then toggle colors index equals 0. Okay, so somehow this thing fails. Which is kind of weird. Let's add a few more colors, test it again. And now, So then we hit this one down here. It's actually annoying that you have to hit the... So actually here we have to say that we mod by the number of active states, I think. So now if I remove one, it changes them, and it doesn't go back to black. Is it because you cannot like mod by 1 or something? Or by 0, I guess. Yeah, that's the problem. It's because we are taking the modulus with respect to 0. Okay. So then here we'll just say black. Great. Okay, so now we can draw some patterns, but let's not do that. Let's do like some variations of red. We draw like some really cool pattern. We save it and we go back. It just thinks everything is black. So we need to change the logic down here, where we set things. Okay, so here we reallocate the pattern. If the pattern has become larger, that is fine. Let's get the number of states. Get number of active states. If the number of states is greater than 0, then we have to do something. If the number of states is not so if it's not equal to the number of states in the pattern, we also have to reallocate that. And there's nothing called states, but there is something called state to color. And here's just color, pattern, and it's just number of states, Okay, so we reallocated this color thing, and now we should fill it in. So let's say for I equals to 0 less than a number of states, the color is not that, wasn't it get nth color? And then the state pattern state to color of I is equal to that color. Great. So that's that. And here we have to also do something different. So if the number of states is greater than 0, we'll do one thing, otherwise we'll keep doing this. We can always refactor it later, as they say. But here we need to know which state it was, so we have to say toggled Right, so we actually have to check if it's toggled. So if it's not toggled, well, if it is toggled, then the state is simply toggle colors of the square index. Otherwise, what color should we make it? Let's make it a white. So I think that was it. And that's not how it works. It has to be an integer. That means actually we kind of need a background color. So here we'll say -1, and then we'll say state pattern state color is white, so that's like background. And here will simply be BEE number of states -1. Actually, this is a bit confusing, so let's do it like this. Add 1 for background. Number of states. But maybe this should be plus. Number of states should be, because it is technically as another state. So let's do that. Last one is white. Here, if it's not toggled, it should be the last one. Okay, I think it's good. Let's check that it still works. That seems to be correct. Let's go down to the lowest level. Fantastic. Just do one more. Okay, let's try something actually interesting. Save that, and still some kind of bug. Let's go to the lowest level, see what it's doing. No, that's correct. But the problem is when we do the transform, then it will like add some white. So we don't really want that. So That is a problem, but that means we have to loop through the bounding box. So let's say has background is check has background, and the bounding box is called bbox. Loop through all squares in the bounding box. Check if any are not toggled. Can Copilot do that? So if it's toggled, we skip it. What is this? That is weird. I just want to do something like this. I think that should be correct. The other thing is correct, so that should be okay. So if it has the background, then we need to do this. And the same here, if it has the background, what just happened? So if has background, do this. And this should just work still. Let's try. And then a little bit darker. And a little bit darker. Save, go here, still doesn't work. Damn it. What is wrong? Should we do the debugger? Let's just make sure it's compiled. Let's do GDB main. Let's break in editor.c at line 398. Let's run it. Great. We'll put it into a nice state. Save. And now we have hit the breakpoint. So let's say layout source. Let's print the bounding box. That, I'm sure that's correct. So let's step into this function. It's looping over all the, that's obviously wrong. Okay, so I already see the problem. We need to do it like this. We need to say bounding box.width. Okay. okay, this color is wrong, which is funny, isn't it? Yeah, the colors are a bit messed up. Huh. The last color is always this this gray. Because of this. Right, so let's say limit is, we have to do it like that. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Save, go, there. Oh, everything is kind of flipped. Everything is flipped. Why is that? That's so weird. Like, that didn't happen with this. Okay, we need to do another thing, which is right, so we also have to say, okay, no colors, reset state to color to show black and white. First we'll reallocate and then we'll say this thing. So I think that should do it. Fine, looks good, it's flipped, but whatever. Away with those, away with that, go here. It's, now this one is flipped too. Why? Why? Why is that? Alright, I found the bug. So it was this index here that we supplied to the clickable square was wrong. It should be J here and I there. So if we now run it, there's nothing wrong. It's like as we would expect. But now let's try to see if we can finally get it to work with some colors. That's correct. If we go to another level, it still looks correct. Right. Great. There's still like some, I don't know if that's to be expected, but like, looks like there's a little bit of space between the squares. Yeah, it's like they don't completely flush. They're not completely flush. Okay, but that will fix another time, I think. For now, I really would like to change how this slider thing works. So let's try that. So now if I just click on this white square, it should jump to where I am. So that's a lot nicer to work with. Now I want to do the same with that one, the color picker. And we have here, instead of checking the collision with the circle, let's check collision with the mouse position and the the rectangle we use to draw the colors, which is kind of have to make that so rectangle, let's call it a rectangle, and it's not gonna be like, it's not gonna be any of this, so it will be color picker rect dot x, and then yeah, we also need these scale factors. So let's try that. Now if I click anywhere it should just, and if I click outside it doesn't react. Great, that's gonna make it a lot easier. Surprisingly, it's super annoying that you have to click here. So this is gonna make it so much easier. Okay. Let's try something. So we go here, we go here, we go here. And let's upscale it a bit. We still have these, we can see the background through. So why is that? Let's go into main and we draw the fractal here. And it might be because of the fact that we are using integers. So if I go into Raylib and draw rectangle, it is still integers. It has to be integers here. We can cheat and use a vector to get floats, but what is the? I feel like it's some kind of rounding error. Okay, I found the problem. So it was to do with some kind of rounding. So I changed everything, all the positions and things like that, into floats instead of integers. Here where we draw the fractal, and that seemed to do the trick. It does remove the outlines. We kind of had some outlines before, but I think it's fine. I think it even looks better like this. So now if we do something like that, there's no, it's a little bit here, but most of the time it's okay. So now we should probably try to make some kind of interesting pattern. It's kind of hard to predict what will be interesting. Start by clearing everything out. So we should do some red and some maybe like desaturated blue. Let's try that. So let's make a relatively large pattern. And I want to make it square actually. And let's fill it up. So let's try to make it like, maybe have a diagonal that becomes light in here, so kind of like a blue diagonal, something like that. And maybe we'll add a little bit of red, lightness on the edges. So doing that is probably going to have a huge effect. So we don't need that color, and we also don't use that color. Okay, things changed. I didn't really expect that. Anyway, let's do this. Try to run it. And this is level 1, which looks correct. Oh, that's cool. That's kind of cool. I like this. So, okay, cannot really go more than 4 levels, but then it breaks. We can also do press C to get like a pure view of this. It's, I don't know how it looks on the video, but it looks kind of cool. Maybe we'll stick with this level of detail for the thumbnail. Okay, that's gonna do it for this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.